if you help everybody else around you become successful and achieve their goals, as a byproduct, you win. Like you have to win at that.
3-4 weeks ago, it's a big acquisition, a couple of $1 million of profit. And I was doing this deal and the whole deal collapsed like 3 days before closing, just totally collapsed. Everyone's fallen out and everyone's telling me, dude, this deal is dead. You're never going to resurrect it. Not even you can close this deal. And I asked myself that very question. What would the Iron Cowboy do? What's the one little micro step I can take to get back up off the floor? And I did it. And then I took another step and another step, and then we closed that deal.
I was dragging a broken body over 14,000 miles.
Yeah.
And it was so exhausting that it just became like, how mentally strong can I be to manage this level of pain for that amount of time?
A very warm welcome to the Creative Dealmaker podcast. I'm Carl Allen, I'm your host, and I'm going to be interviewing expert guests sharing investor strategies that will completely and utterly disrupt the market when it comes to buying and selling businesses all over the world.
Welcome to the Creative Dealmaker podcast. Got a very, very special guest on the show today. As you know, James Lawrence is one of my big heroes, somebody that's taught me a lot about myself and my own limits in terms of mental toughness. I'll let James tell his story, but he did 50 Ironmans in 50 days in 50 different states. And then he still had something left in the tank. And then he went and did 100, which I think was 101. So James, this is one of those life moments to actually be able to kind of interview, one of my superheroes is a real pleasure for me. So thank you so much for joining us and welcome to the Creative Dealmaker podcast.
Yeah, awesome, man. Thanks so much. Man, I gotta say, dude, you know how to throw a party. We were just at your event and I had an opportunity to go on stage and really throw down. It was a ton of fun. What an amazing group of people. It was just so energized, so much fun. And I mean, I know once I left there that the energy shifted and a lot of good things happened. But I'll say this too, like I'm super jealous of your backdrop. Like I want both of those in my collection immediately. So
man, so let me tell you about the pictures, right? So as you know, I'm co-located. I spend half of my life in Viera, Florida, where I am now, and half of my life in the UK. So in the UK, I'm a massive soccer fan. We call it football, but soccer. In the US, I'm a basketball fan, right? And there's two players that really kind of epitomize success for me. It's Kobe, who's my all-time favorite player, and Steph Curry, who's my current favorite player from Golden State. And I didn't get into basketball until like 2000, so I missed the whole Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan kind of thing. I've only kind of got into it since, but they're my guys. And when I come into this office, I feel like I'm surrounded by greatness, especially now with you in the room. I really need to up my game, which is really cool. But yeah, let's get into your kind of backstory, right? I know there's a lot of kind of stuff that you did. You set world records. You started running triathlons and all those crazy things and Ironmans. But let's talk about the 50, right? Because I told you this story when we met a couple of weeks ago. I did 75 hard during COVID, and I'd come across you listening to Andy Frisella, and you developed just listening to your story, and then I read the book and watched your Netflix documentary. It kind of taught me that my limits as a human being were way beyond what I thought was even possible. But then, when you look at your journey, the 50, how do you get your head around that? Because virtually every other person walking on this earth, they can't even comprehend what it takes to kind of go through something as extreme as you did. And I want you to talk about that.
Yeah, I kind of want to framework two things here. One, dude, I've had every genetic test done on the planet. I'm like as average. I joke and I say I'm an average white Canadian. I grew up in Canada. But I think people need to understand like what an Ironman is. It's a 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike, finishes with a full marathon run, 26.2 miles, 140.6 miles. NBC Sports calls it the most single challenging day in sports. And like I said, when I first found triathlon, I wasn't doing Ironmans. I was doing like the short distance sprint, super challenging, super explosive, super fun. And at the time, I just wanted to do one Ironman. In fact, my journey truly started running with my wife, and she says, "Hey, let's go do this 4 mile fun run." And it was over Thanksgiving. Our little town was throwing it, and I was like, "Yeah, fun. Nobody runs for fun. That's stupid." and I went and had a terrible experience. I joke all the time, like I was getting passed by women pushing their kids in strollers and like having Sunday afternoon conversations with their kids on this Thursday Thanksgiving. And she was just like, "Dude, you are pathetic. Like, I can't believe like you're supposed to be, the physical specimen, the man." And I went to the gym, but I didn't really do cardio type stuff. And I looked great, but I was kind of not healthy on the inside. And so she like signed me up for a marathon and said, "Figure it out." And that's really what kickstarted this whole journey. And so just really, really humble beginnings. And what I want to impress on people is like, it's okay to start a new journey, and it's okay to suck at that journey. And as you move through that journey, all of a sudden your perspective changes and what you believe is possible changes. And you're a business dude. And like, I guarantee when you were younger, you were like, "Man, if I could make 5K a month, like 60, like 60K a year, I'm going to be the man," and that you make your first 100K and you're like, "Okay, what's half a mil look like? What's a mil look like? Okay, what's 10 mil look like? Okay, what's that 100 mil thing that people are talking about? What's that club look like?" And then all of a sudden, $1 billion comes into view, and it's like everything we do. It's a moving goalpost, but it's based on where we are in our journey. And people are just so scared to start because they're overwhelmed. Like they're like, "I can't make $1 billion." Well, I guarantee you, where you're sitting right now, like you're knocking on the door of $1 billion. Like it's realistic to you.
Yeah.
And for me, when I first started, I was like, 4 miles of running? Are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
And then we do 100 consecutive Ironmans. And so really you've got to just start your journey, and you got to keep going. And so the 50 was very unique. It was kind of like really where the tipping point happened in my career in terms of belief. Starting to put a team around me, starting to really build on the experiences that I'd had. And what made the 50 so hard was it was first of its kind. Nobody had ever done anything like this. The United States is enormous, and to try to do a 14-hour event and get to the next state, and then every single day you're dealing with chaos, confusion, new environment, new people, new problems. And it really just built and built and built our confidence and allowed us to truly believe that anything is possible now.
So how did that work? So like, where did you start? Where did you actually start the journey? Where was Ironman number one?
Yeah. So, and just to be clear, these were not sanctioned Ironman events. Those only happen on weekends. They're not in every state. And so we put on our own events. And so add that complexity to it. You're organizing an event that you have to plan to put on and execute, and all the courses, all the maps, all the people, everything. So enormous project in the scope of things. And so we had, the way I started this, I've got 5 little kids, right? And so I was like, okay, how do I engage the family? How do I get them to buy in, right? It's like a sales tactic. And so I went to Walmart. I bought the biggest map I could find. I threw it up on the wall, and I grabbed some markers, and I started like, "Hey man, this is what this state is. And let's look online and look what's fun to do in this state." And we started to figure out all these really cool things to do in all these states. And my kids were like, "Dude, we're going to get to do all of this in 50 days. And I'm like, "Yeah, we are." And so, the 2 most difficult states to me logistically were Hawaii and Alaska. They require a commercial airline. And so I was like, okay, I got to do those first. You either got to do them first or last. And I'm like, I don't want to do 48 consecutive states and Ironmans and then run into a problem that's outside of my control. Resetting after 2 days is very different than resetting after 48.
Yeah.
So the decision then was made, okay, we'll start in Hawaii, and we'll finish in Utah so that I can go home to my bed and sleep once the journey's over. So it went Hawaii, do an Ironman, fly to Alaska, do an Ironman, fly to Washington, and then the team met us there with the motorhome, and we all piled in, and then we started to navigate the lower 48 states.
So you had to do a 14-hour Ironman in Hawaii, right? And then you had to get on a plane. You had to fly all the way to Alaska with your family. get off the plane, do another Ironman, then get on another plane, fly to Washington, and do another Ironman. So you had to do 3 Ironmans in 3 days, literally thousands of miles apart. Like, when did you sleep?
Yeah, I can't remember the exact number, but I think over those first 3 Ironmans, I got a total of 6 hours of sleep. And it's because, we had to start at midnight in Hawaii. So wake up on day 1 at midnight and do that first one, because we had to catch an early enough flight to get to Honolulu, because we did on Kauai, get to Honolulu, make it in time. We landed in Alaska in the morning, and I had to go literally put my bike back together, get to the swim area in Alaska, and do that second one. So I got very little sleep on the plane that night, and then did the second one. And then again, we were crunched for time. An overnight flight landed, and I think I got maybe 3 hours that night once we landed in Washington to start the next one. And then that's really when chaos ensued. And so right from the get-go, we were so exhausted. By day 4 in Oregon, I was already starting to fall asleep on my bike, and I was like, man, something has to change. We got to play catch up somewhere. And unfortunately, for 7 weeks, there was really no opportunity to play catch up.
So at what stage? So you're 4 days in, you've had 6 hours of sleep. You're literally running on fumes. You're falling asleep on your bike. Like, was there ever a time where you thought to yourself, you know what, I don't know if I can do this. Like, maybe I've just punched too far above what's possible. No one's ever achieved anything even close to this. Like, was there ever a time when you thought, yeah, I don't think I'm going to do this?
Yeah, here's what's so interesting, and I don't know if it was a naivety or whatever it was, but I was being interviewed leading up to the 50, and they would always ask, "Hey, what do you think your chances are? Hey, do you ever have that self-doubt? Hey, do you have these conversations?" And I was literally confused by the question, because I was so bought in. I was like 300% this is happening. And so when you commit to that level, like it becomes the only thing you're doing is problem solving and persevering and pushing through. I didn't have the luxury to even think about quitting. And I think, those guys on the wall behind you, that they're not thinking, is this the year we win the chip? They go into every season being like, we're winning this year, right? There's no doubt in our minds, and they have to have that belief. That's why I find it so interesting when like these big sports guys get interviewed, and then they get accused of being like cocky or arrogant for saying, "No, I'm going to win that. I'm going to win that MMA fight. I'm not going to." Like, if you go into a fight thinking you're going to get knocked out, like I just did a boxing fight. Like, I just did my very first ever boxing fight for charity, and dude, you cannot go in there with any doubt. And it's so funny. I knew I was going to beat the guy, because I could see in his eyes, like he doubted. He was intimidated. He was intimidated. Yeah. And I knew, I was like, dude has no chance. And you can tell someone's belief and conviction just by listening to their language, the words that they use in interviews, and I promise you, I get messages all the time. Hey, you've been inspired me, which is amazing. And I want to try XYZ. And then I ask them a series of questions. I know instantly, just by the way they frame their answers, if they're going to be successful or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Words matter that much.
Because a lot of times, if you want to achieve something insane, like, it's the power of your why and your purpose that's going to carry you through. So, like, clearly you must have had a bunch of that going on in your own head when you were going through the 50. But like, what was your why? What was the fuel that was taking you through it?
Yeah, great question. And this is so powerful. And I had to be armed with a lot of different reasons and whys. And I can go off on a whole tangent about how one why is not enough. You got to have a bag and be armed with a lot of different reasons and stack them up. And ultimately that becomes your purpose, your passion. But you have to tie what you're doing to something greater than just, hey, I want to break record, or I want to, this and that. And rewind our history a little bit. I immigrated from a different country, Canada, albeit, but English speaking, but immigrated here, and I had very little money in my pocket. I knew one person, and I was chasing that American dream, and eventually started my own mortgage company. And then, as we all know, the 2008 crash happened, and we lost everything, and got beat down. And that's ultimately what put us on this path. And trust me, as a man, as the provider, you remember the moment that they knock on your door, take away your home and all of your possessions, and you're like stripped of everything. Like it's the most humiliating / humbling experience you can have. And it was rock bottom for myself and my family. And then we started to go on this journey and start to break these world records. And the why of the 50 became, I'm going to take my life back, change the trajectory of my life, and create the future that I want. And so every single day I woke up and I was like, I'd bike past like a beautiful home and I'm like, I'm going to give my wife the dream home she deserves. And I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. And so as I was out there suffering, I would shift my focus to the things I was dreaming about in the future that I wanted to create. And so my why became so very emotional and powerful. Yeah. And you have to tie your why to a big enough emotion for when you're in those like really desperate moments, it just doesn't matter. And the thought of quitting doesn't even enter your mind.
And I remember reading your book, you talked about, I think, whatever day it was, you'd fallen asleep, you came off your bike, you were kind of in a mess. And you didn't know how you were going to get up and complete. But I remember saying your why was that your daughter, Lucy, had agreed to run the final 5Ks of the day because you were raising money for obesity and charity. So you had a date with your daughter every night to run that final 5K. And like, I don't know, I got goosebumps just thinking about that. Like if one of my kids was waiting for me at the end of a journey, there's nothing that stopped me. So clearly that must have been a huge driver for you.
Yeah, huge why. I mean, and that's why I said you have to have more than one why run reason. It just becomes more and more and more powerful and palatable. And so, there was that personal journey. I'm going to take my life back. I never want to feel rock bottom again. We were raising money for charity, making an impact. We were raising money for the Jamie Oliver Foundation and to eradicate the childhood obesity epidemic that exists today. Here's a shocking statistic. We're the first generation ever where the parents are slated to outlive the kids. Come on, I don't want to be part of that statistic.
That's awful, man. Yeah,
it's terrible. It's terrible. And then of course that 7:00 meeting with my daughter, that appointment every single night. Because on early in the journey, I crashed and I'm laying on the side of the road and I'm like, I don't know how to get back on my bike. And I share a quote all the time that says, "He who has their why can bear almost any how."
Yeah.
And I didn't know how, but I knew why.
That's the quote of the show. He who bears almost any, sorry, he who has a most powerful why can bear almost any how. Correct?
That's right. And so for me, I was like, my daughter's waiting for me, and she has this goal to run all 55Ks. And if I don't show up, she can't achieve that goal. And the beautiful lesson behind that is, if you help everybody else around you become successful and achieve their goals, as a byproduct, you win. Like you have to win at that point.
So
and Lucy doesn't realize it, but me like figuring out how to help her and show up so that she can achieve that goal, that got me to that point every single day. And then we just had to show up.
Yeah, it's so powerful. And what you may know this, you may not, but like what you've done, like the ripple effect through the world with what you've done. So for example, I was listening to your story, and that got me through something called 75 Hard, which we'll talk about in a minute. And then like I started talking about you all the time to my protege community, and you met a whole bunch of them. You met 350 of them in Atlanta a few weeks ago, and your book, Redefining Possible, is mandatory reading for them. Watching your online documentary, I think it's on Netflix or Prime, I can't remember. That's mandatory reading for them. So you inspiring me has allowed me to inspire other people through the story. And we have a saying, no joke, we have a saying, when a deal goes south, they're trained and conditioned now to ask the question, like, what would the Iron Cowboy do, right? What's the next step? Can I take one step to try and bring this deal to fruition? And where that kind of came from was I was doing 75 Hard, which that was my hard, right? Your hard is a different level. We've all got a different hard, right? You can do 50 or 100 Ironmans in a row. My hard is 75 Hard, right? So I'm doing that. I'm 62, 63 days in. It's pouring down with rain. I'm doing my outside run, my workout, and I slipped and I tore the cartilage in both sides of my left knee, right? And I'm lying on the side of the road. I'm in tears. I'm about to call my wife to come rescue me. The challenge is over. And then I thought, hang on a minute, right? What would the Iron Cowboy do? I know what he'd do. He'd get up and he'd just take one step. Just be perfect for a second. Take one step, take another step, take another step. Then you're walking for a minute. Then you finish the workout, and then you do the rest of the different challenges. And what we've done is we've taken that kind of framework and applied it into deals. And, I was working on a deal literally 3-4 weeks ago. So it's a big acquisition, a couple of $1 million of profit. And I was doing this deal, and the whole deal collapsed like 3 days before closing, just totally collapsed. Everyone's fallen out, and everyone's telling me, dude, this deal is dead. You're never going to resurrect it. Not even you can close this deal. And I asked myself that very question. What would the Iron Cowboy do? What's the one little micro step I can take to get back up off the floor? And I did it. And then I took another step and another step, and then we closed that deal. And I've got all of my deal makers using that. Like what would the Iron Cowboy do? So I want you to be not just proud of what you've done. It's incredible, right? It's an unbeatable feat. But the way you've inspired people like me and probably millions of other people, and how we use that to inspire our own tribes, like that's your legacy, brother. Like, because no one's ever going to do what you've done, right? And yeah, you did the 50, but how did you not get injured, right? Just let's talk about that for a minute. You did 50 Ironmans for 14 to 16 hours a day, all those days. How did you not get injured? Or did you just have to just get through it?
Yeah, I want to back up 1 second. The part about doing one step and the way that relates into real life is what's happening, and what I'm seeing around the world is we're getting overwhelmed with the enormity of everything that's happening. And the kids you got to get here and get there, and I got to do my business, and I got to do my workouts for myself, and I got to do my cold plunge and all these things, and I got to do my reading, and I got to do my self-improvement, and then when am I going to take time for myself and grow my business, all these things. And we get so overwhelmed, and literally it's just like, okay, what's the one thing I can do right now that's going to be the most important thing to move this ship, right? And it just becomes a matter of one thing at a time, and you slowly chip away at it. And I just want to share too, I've talked on stage about, quitting on yourself and your journey and not becoming that master problem solver. We truly don't know the legacy that we're leaving, because someone's always truly watching. And that ripple effect that you talked about. And just this past weekend, I got to have an amazing experience to where I got to go run the Chicago Marathon and guide a young man with Down syndrome who just finished doing the world marathon. He got all 6 stars, Tokyo, New York, London, Berlin, Chicago, Boston. And that's a lifetime achievement for a lot of people. And as a Down syndrome person, you're not supposed to be able to do this kind of stuff. And he's breaking barriers. And you want to know how his journey got started?
How did it get started?
His family 4 years ago sat down and was scrolling on Netflix and saw our documentary. And this young man said, I can do one of those. and his dad said, yeah, maybe, why not? If that guy can do 50, why can't you do one? And he's gone on to inspire so many people.
Crazy.
And had I quit on my journey and not really, cared, what opportunity are we missing to impact other people? So yeah, just really an opportunity. And if you're thinking about quitting on your journey, don't. Because not only are you quitting on yourself, you're quitting on those around you, and you're quitting on those people and the legacy that you're leaving that you don't even know they're watching. And I don't care who you are, somebody's watching you. And so in terms of injury and stuff, it really comes down to preparation, game plan, and execution. And then when something comes up, having the courage to adjust or pivot. And so the 50, it was a decade worth of building blocks and foundational building and doing the basics. And, one of the things I love to say is success comes from doing a lot of little things consistently over a long period of time.
Yeah.
And that was really the lead up to the 50. And the only reason we struggled during the 50 was the logistics. It caused a level of incomprehensible fatigue.
Yeah.
But my body was strong. In fact, I got stronger by doing an Ironman single day. My time over the last 20 were faster than the first 30. And that was just mind-boggling. But what it proves is, in the face of adversity and challenge, if you continually show up, you're your body adapts to where an Ironman a day becomes routine.
Body's
Now
smart.
just think about that for a second. To
Yeah.
where an Ironman a day becomes routine. And so in your daily life and in your daily struggle, what happens is you have to have that insane belief and conviction in what you're doing. And there's a disconnect between the mind and the body. And what happens is it's called the lag or the gap. And eventually your body catches up and believes what the mind's been telling it. Right. And so if you're saying I'm a billionaire, I can achieve that. This is the game plan. This is the route. And your body's like, well, I don't know yet. This doesn't seem right. And I don't think I can handle that kind of workload. And as you continue to do that workload, your body adapts. And then that moment happens where the mind and the body and the spirit all come into unity. And you're like, this is where the magic happens.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So you showed some photographs of your toes when you spoke in Atlanta at our event, and they look like your feet look like they've been put through a wood chipper, right? Is that the worst injury that you had, or did you have like even worse injuries than that throughout the 50?
Yes, on the 50, actually, day number 5, I tore my shoulder in the swim in California, and I was like, for the next 2 days, I was doing the swim with kind of just one arm and side stroking it and just trying to figure out how to do it. And eventually I just said, you know what? With pain, it kind of reaches a threshold. And then you just maintain that level of pain. And I just learned, okay, if I can figure out how to manage this, then I can continue through. And eventually my body adapted and I was able to start to swim normal again, even though I had that tear in my shoulder. And what's funny, that picture I showed in Atlanta, that picture's from day 16. And my feet didn't look like that in the end. And it's just proof positive that your body adapts even under stress. We were still doing 140 miles a day. And even under stress, my body said, okay, I get it now. He is actually going to do an Ironman a day.
We've got to figure it out.
I need to get on the same page as this dude's mind. Yeah. And the body says, I'm going to do whatever it takes. And by the end, my foot was healing by doing 140. Crazy.
That's crazy. So after you finished the 50, like how long did it take you to like just fully recover and get back to normal levels? It wasn't obviously instant. It took a few months, right?
It wasn't instant, but it was pretty quick. Like if there's a program out there called Strava where we post all of our times and distances over, routes that are in our neighborhood. And I was looking back at times, and some of the fastest times I ever produced were fairly close after the 50. And really it was just, I needed to take a hot minute and just recover my mind from dealing with the pain and let some of those like really intense things heal. But within 6 months, I was just clicking, just back to it, doing challenges. I ran 235 miles across Greece right after, soon after. I rode my bike to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. I did the 4 hardest extreme triathlons in the World Championships in Norway within a 2-year period. And so really quick, we adapted and got right back to it. And that's just a testament to one of the other things I like to talk about, not on stage, but just in these conversations. Like, you just have to always be game ready in life, in business, and whatever it is. And that's in terms of like your mental sharpness, your physical status, because opportunities are continually flowing across our desk. Opportunities are coming in and people are doing things, people have things. If you're not game ready, whatever that means physically, emotionally, spiritually, if you're not game ready, dude, that opportunity is going to come and pass. And you hear all the time, like, life dealt me a rock hard and I don't have this opportunity. No, it means you're not game ready. And you need to be game ready for an opportunity hit so that you can seize that moment. You got to latch onto that horse that's running 1,000,000 miles an hour, and then you figure it out. But if you're not game ready where you can't even grab the horse and jump on and go for that ride, like, yeah, of course you're going to be missing out on opportunities. And so stop having a pity party, stop feeling sorry for yourself, and get yourself game ready, because you have no idea when the next opportunity is going to present itself right in your lap. And if you're not ready, someone else is going to be ready and take that opportunity from you.
That's amazing. That's really kind of valuable. So you finished the 50, you took some time to recover, but we're still doing all these different things. Now, clearly, when you finished the 50, you must have realized that you had something left in the tank, right? Because then several years later, you did 100. I think you even did 101, right? You got to the end of 100. Who does 100 Ironmans and thinks, yeah, let's do another one, right? That's insane. So what was that harder or easier? Because I know you did them all in the same location, but man, 101 days consecutively doing this. Did you find that harder or easier than the 50 where you were moving location?
Yeah, they were both different in different ways and had their own unique complexities. I would say, well, let me just frame it like this. So the pandemic hit and the world shut down, especially my world. Speaking, coaching, racing, all of it wiped clean. Like it disappeared overnight, like most industries did, but mine especially. And so I kind of always wanted to redo the 50 because, when you do something, you're like, oh, I can do that better, right? Like I just think it's a natural instinct with that movie. We believe we can do something better than we did it in the past, and that's the whole point in life. Like make mistakes, challenge yourself, and then do it better. And so when the pandemic hit, I was like, ooh, this is my opportunity, because I'd always kind of wanted to do it better, and I thought to myself, okay, if I can put the team in place, remove chaos, and put systems and protocols in place, could we double what everybody said was impossible? Could we defy logic? And the problem is there was a 5-year gap. So remember, leading up to the 50, it was foundational blocks, it was building, it was growing, it was experiences, it was all these things, and then led into the 50. Well, the 100, there'd been 5 years off where I was coaching, mentoring, speaking, helping others, doing all these things. Well, good old Iron Cowboy got a little bit out of shape. And out of shape is obviously all relative, but I was 20 pounds heavier than I was. And when we finally made the decision that this is something that we were going to do, I only had a 4-month training block to get ready for that. And I was going to really rely on my mental toughness and my past experiences.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my body just wasn't ready, and we got into injury problems really early. And so if the 50 was chaos, logistics, and fatigue, the 100 was pain management, adjusting over a really long period of time. You got to think 140.6 miles a day for a quarter of a year, no days off.
Yeah.
That's 14,000 plus miles. And you're dealing with like shin splints and stress fractures on day 5. And so now the whole campaign changes, and it really became mental because I was dragging a broken body over 14,000 miles.
Yeah.
And it was so exhausting that it just became like, how mentally strong can I be to manage this level of pain for that amount of time?
That's insane. That's insane. So what's next for the Iron Cowboy, right? So everything you put your mind to, you totally like annihilate. So like, what's next? Like, what's the next big challenge? What else are you doing these days?
Yeah, I'm just really enjoying my family and speaking on stages around the world. I've spoken to 50 countries now. And I, it goes right back to what we talked at the beginning of the conversation, like that belief system that we can and be anything we want to be. And now I just have to ask myself, 2 questions. What's the sacrifice it's going to take to accomplish X? And what's the benefit it would take or is to my family, my community? And if I can't make those things align, like I'm not interested. But I do believe I could do anything. I just got to answer those 2 questions. And so, and right now, the answer has always been no, it's not worth it. And so now I've shifted to helping others accomplish what their version of the 100 is. And we talked a little bit about everybody's heart is different. And one of the biggest things I've recognized as I've traveled around the world is humans, we are losing the conversation with ourselves. We're getting in our own way. And we've honestly lost hope in what the future can look like and be. And I'm not speaking globally. I'm more speaking here in the United States. There's so much opportunity and there's so much good that's happening. And really anybody can go get their piece of the pie if they want it.
Nice.
It's just a matter of having that mindset shift and going. So really for me, it's helping as many people achieve their version of the 100 as we can. So we're coaching, we're mentoring, we're doing the retreats. Next year, 2024, we're launching our new book called Iron Hope. And, and we're also launching the new documentary that'll premiere in February at Sundance. And so we're super excited for both those releases. We believe they can have amazing impact. And then the retreats. Everybody always asks me, how do I become more mentally tough?
This is Iron Grit, right? These are the retreats. Yeah.
The Iron Grit.
I'm going to come do one. So me and my business partner, Chris, who you met, he's pretty badass. And we're going to get a bunch of our inner circle protege members, and we're going to come down and we're going to do one of those with you. So yeah, talk to me about that. Like, what does that look like? How does that actually work? Hopefully I don't have to do 50 Ironmans, but I can do something that's going to really help me bust outside of my comfort zone and define a new level of hard. But yeah, tell me about Iron Grit.
Yeah. So like I was saying, people say, how do I become more mentally tough? And it's not going to be listening to you and I have this conversation. It's not going to be watching the documentary, reading a book. Like there's so much information flow out there. The missing piece is taking action and doing it. And you know this, in order to close the deal, you got to take action. Yeah. You got to find the deal. You got to do all of these things.
Yeah.
And so in order to become more mentally tough, you have to have an experience. And so these retreats are 2 to 4 days long, and we bring in some incredible speakers and some people that are going to educate you and motivate you. But you're also going to have a physical experience, and all physical ranges are welcome, all abilities, and we'll scale it. But the thing is people need to realize that when they're broken, they can still take one more step, like we talked about earlier. Yeah. And we're gonna do breath work. We're gonna do workouts. We're gonna do yoga. We're gonna have amazing conversations, amazing connections. We're gonna do fun activities. And so it's just really an opportunity to go and have that experience to where you're gonna get to ask yourself, now what am I going to do? Am I going to take the next step, or am I going to do what I've always done and quit and put my hands up and go home?
Well, I'm in. I absolutely can't wait. So where can people find out about Iron Grit if people want to come?
Yeah, they can follow us on Instagram at Iron Cowboy James, and everything is on our website, ironcowboy.com. And that's where we're going to announce new locations. We've got 3 of them set up for next year. Our first one's in Kanab, Utah next week. I'm not sure when this is going to post. It'll probably have already happened by then. But our flagship one is going to be next May 2024. It's going to be on a private British island, and it's going to be incredible. If you have the time and the means, this is something that you're not going to want to miss.
May 2024, I am in, right? So I'll check that out. I'll get with your team. Awesome. I'm going to bring a bunch of my super proteges and my business partners down. Well, hey, James Lawrence, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks for doing this. Good luck in all the kind of cool things. But, you and I are going to do some cool stuff together, right? We're going to look at doing some deals. It's going to be absolutely amazing, man. I want to be a coach to you in some of the business stuff, as you're going to be a coach to me in some of these physical and mental things. But it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining the show, and we will see you soon.
Yeah, absolutely honored. And I just want to finish with this thought that you just brought up. Like, if you're trying to create greatness on your own, stop it. One of the things I love to say from stage is nothing great is ever accomplished on our own. And you've got to surround yourself with amazing people like Carl, like whoever it is that like you aspire to be, because everybody has a different level of amazing and a different skill set that they're going to bring to the table. Trust me, there's not enough time in the day to become an expert at everything. So start creating your tribe, start surrounding yourself with coaches, start putting mentors in your pocket. And that's how you're going to win. I saw a great analogy one time where they were like, hey, would you like this entire, what was it? It was a watermelon. They were like, hey, would you like a piece of the watermelon? No, would you like this one piece? Dang it, I screwed it up. I can't remember what it was, but essentially you want a watermelon this big and you want a little piece of that watermelon, and then everybody shares it together. Because trust me, you can accomplish way more by doing it together. You've been amazing, totally humbling to be able to come on your podcast. And I wish everybody to have an amazing, successful time and be blessed.
Thank you, James. Well, that's the show, guys. That's Creative Dealmaker. We will see you guys soon. Until next time, bye for now.